The Man Who Knocks. The first murder was dismissed as a home invasion gone wrong. A young woman found ripped apart in her bedroom. No signs of forced entry, just bloody handprints on the inside of her front door, and a message scratched deep into the wood. He knocked first. The second night, Detective Mark Holloway studied the reports. No prints, no DNA. Just one witness, the woman's neighbor, who swore she had heard knocking. Karma. 3 slow knocks. A pause. Then 3 more. Hours later, the screaming started. By the time she called the police, it was already too late. The third night, a second victim. A man this time, torn to unrecognizable shreds. Front door locked from the inside. No sign of struggle, except for one thing. His fingers were broken and bloody, as if he had tried to claw his way out. And on his door, that same deep carving. He knocked first. The pattern. Mark dug into the victims' pasts. Both had criminal records. Both had been violent people. One had abused his girlfriend. The other had gotten away with assault. And now, someone or something was coming for them. The final night. Mark stayed late at the precinct, studying the case. Then, at 3 a.m., his phone buzzed. A voicemail. No caller ID. Just breathing. Then, 3 slow knocks. A pause. Then 3 more. Mark's blood ran cold. A chill crept up his spine as he turned toward his office door. And then, someone knocked. The same pattern. Slow, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. Silence. Knock, knock, knock. Mark drew his gun. "Who's there?" he demanded. No answer. He reached for the doorknob and froze. Something scratched from the other side, carving into the wood. He yanked the door open. Nothing there. Just an empty hallway. But when he looked back at the door, his breath caught. Carved deep into the wood. He knocked first. The next day, Mark never came home. His body was found inside his locked office. No sign of forced entry. No wounds. But his eyes were wide open in terror, and his fingertips were bloody, as if he had tried to claw his way out. And on his office door, the same words, carved in deep. He knocked first. The Bone Collector. The children of Raven's Hollow had a rhyme. If you see the blackbird fly, close your eyes or say goodbye. Step too close, you'll hear the call. Then he'll take your bones and all. For decades, people disappeared near the old Blackwood Cemetery. Some were last seen walking its foggy paths at dusk. Others simply vanished from their homes, doors still locked from the inside. Their bodies were never found. Detective Laura Grayson didn't believe in ghost stories. When another resident, Matthew Kane, a local teacher, vanished without a trace, she was determined to uncover the truth. Her investigation led her to the Blackwood family crypt, a towering mausoleum at the cemetery's heart. The Blackwoods had been gravediggers for generations, their bloodline stretching back to the town's founding. The last of them, Edgar Blackwood, had died over a century ago, yet fresh footprints led to the crypt's entrance. Inside, the air was thick with decay. Dust-coated coffins lined the walls, but the real horror lay below. A hidden staircase led Laura into a cavernous chamber where hundreds of bones were stacked in unnatural, patterned spirals, towers, grotesque sculptures. In the center stood a wooden chair. Strapped to it was Matthew Kane. He was alive, but barely. His skin sunken, his eyes wild with terror. His fingers had been meticulously removed, the wounds blackened as if burned. Then came the whisper, "You shouldn't be here." Laura spun around, gun raised. A figure emerged from the shadows, impossibly tall, its face obscured by a black veil. It moved without sound, its skeletal fingers curling in the air. "You take from the earth," it rasped. "I take from you." Before Laura could react, the figure moved. Darkness swallowed her, her limbs frozen as something cold traced her spine. The next morning, two things were found at the cemetery: Matthew Kane, missing his hands but alive, and a new sculpture in the bone chamber crafted from Laura Grayson's skeleton, posed as if she were still reaching for her gun. The scars we leave. The town of Coldwater never talked about the Hollow Man, not in whispers, not in warnings. It was as if pretending he didn't exist would make it true. But every year, on the same night, someone disappeared, and a week later, they returned stitched together, reshaped, wrong. Detective Mara Holt had seen the victims. Their bodies were puzzles of human flesh, parts taken from others, mouths sewn shut as if to silence their final screams. It wasn't just murder, it was something worse. This year, Mara was going to stop it. She stayed awake the night of the Hollow Man's return, patrolling the streets, gun in hand. Hours passed, nothing happened. Then, at 3:06 a.m., her radio crackled. A voice whispered, "You've been chosen." Pain erupted in her side. She turned, no one was there. Blood seeped through her shirt, but the wound wasn't fresh. It was stitched, as if it had already been made and closed again. Then the world around her changed. The buildings stretched taller, darker, like bones jutting from the earth. The streetlights flickered, casting long, twisted shadows. And from those shadows he emerged. The Hollow Man had no face, just a mass of scars where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. His fingers, long and stitched from different hands, reached for her. Mara fired. The bullet sank into him, but did nothing. "You don't understand," the Hollow Man whispered, though he had no mouth. "I don't kill, I take. The town makes me. Their silence feeds me. Every crime buried, every sin ignored, it gives me shape, gives me purpose." Mara fell to her knees, the stitches on her body tightening, pulling. She could feel herself unraveling, becoming something new. The next morning, a new victim was found. It was Mara, or at least part of her. And somewhere, in the shifting dark, the Hollow Man grew stronger,